Easy Yee, how are we?
Seán, guten Nacht.
Good. Speaking of good knock there, I feel I'm getting a flashback because right before we start hitting the record button in the podcast, we were talking about how you're struggling running in the heat and you're actually in a different country right now and it's 10, 15 degrees warmer than it is over here. And I'm like, did we gone back a year? We gone back in time? Are you over in Alabama again? And obviously with a good knock, you're not because the Germans lost the war. So where are you right now?
I'm over in Germany with work at the minute, but I went for a few runs this week, and I have to say it was like I was starting to learn how to run again. It was agony. Me and one of the guys in here, we were like, right, we might go do a 10K. Like 10K is, me and you in the park on a Sunday. 10K is 16 miles, 10 mile is fine. But when it was 27 degrees, 10K was not a good idea. So we got to 6K. Sorry, we got out to 4K, and I was like, we need to turn around. It was out and back. We ran along the river, and I had to turn around and come back. I was like, yeah, we need to turn around. It wasn't like you could notice it because it was along the river. It followed the meanders of the river, obviously, and the trees had kind of be covered. The sun was starting to set. So every time you ran in the shade, like you were really noticing the difference. It was like, oh my God, thank God. But the minute you ran back in the heat, you're in direct sunlight, you were like, I'm going to die at any moment. So, we turned around. I got to 6K. My heart rate was in the 189, 190 push. And I was like, yeah, I think we need to walk here for about 500 meters.
In context, when you're at 190 there, when we're in the park doing a 10 mile, yours around what, 150, 160?
145 to 150.
145. So you went from 145 to 190. That's like going from 70% max heart rate to pretty much all out there. Yeah,
it was again humbling. It comes back to what we talked about athletes training in the heat all the time and what it's like to train in Ireland. And it's all well and good when we say we started this whole podcast talking about doing the Madrid Marathon, and you thought I was nuts going running in my jumper and my tracksuit bottoms in the Phoenix Park and a hat on. And you were like, why are you doing that? I was like, well, I need to train for a 25 degree heat marathon. Like we're coming from Ireland where it's 10, 11, 12 degrees by the time we get there in April.
I'd never even been in Madrid before, and obviously still haven't. I just assumed that April is April and it'd be like, maybe 16, 17 degrees. To your point, even last week when we had that kind of mini heat wave back again, it was 20 degrees, and I went out at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, ooh, this is a bit tough now at 20 degrees. So go up 7 degrees, I don't think I would have done it. That it's probably, had we done that Madrid Marathon, that could have been. I don't know if we come back onto a podcast if we had it done as bad as we could have done on that day after building up for 16 weeks, and we could have had 4 DNFs on that one.
I would have put the medical insurance to the maximum limit for that one anyway. But on another thing as well. So not only have I done that, then we took a drive down to the Alps. We're only 2 hours north of Austria, so we took a drive down to the Alps, and we got electric bikes, right? Yeah. And I kind of was laughing. I was like, oh yeah, fitness podcast, running podcast. We do our own thing, encourage fitness. I was very glad of every ounce of electricity. I'd say about halfway up that hill. Like we cycled from 800 meters up to 1,500 meters in elevation.
Right.
And I started out in kind of like no battery, and then I got to a point where the bike is so heavy that you kind of just need to have battery on to make it feel like a normal bike.
Gotcha.
But then after a while, the legs burned, and I'd say we were only after about 400 meters of the climb because it was just such a gradient. At one point, it was 23 degree gradient on a bike, and I was like, oh my God, this is torture. The battery was getting pumped up. And then the other thing we don't realize, and the three of us who were out here, we would consider ourselves reasonably fit, like not unfit people, reasonably fit. We cover most things. The three of us were absolutely blowing out of ours, but we never factored in the altitude as well. So we're up at 5,000 feet and working hard. And that little difference was making a big difference in terms of the recovery and not getting the oxygen. And it wasn't massive. It's not 10,000 feet. It's not Denver, Colorado, but it's still 5,000-6,000 feet, 1,500 meters. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
What's the highest tier? Half that, is it? I don't know.
4,000 feet. 4,500. Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah. So So not only was I getting the hot weather training, I was getting some altitude training in. So
Best of both worlds there,
when I'm
yeah.
back again, there'll be like a gazelle in the park. You won't be able to tell the difference between the deer and me.
I have to ask before you hit the intro to the intro music to the podcast. When you were getting your electric bike, did you have a choice?
I actually didn't want the choice. I'm not sure, and that's an honest answer. I'm not sure. I think there was a choice, but to be honest, the e-bikes was. I think the shops know how difficult it is. So the e-bikes, I think, was the standard. No, I'm sure you could have.
It's not like going to Aquilon or something when they're kind of like, do you want an e-bike instead? It was kind of like, do you actually want to kill yourself instead of getting a regular bike? But on that note, guys, hit the intro music for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast. Geez, an electric bike would be great doing a triathlon.
I tell you what, if I had an electric bike for a triathlon, I'd do very well. It's amazing. It genuinely is amazing. Like you just spin your legs a little bit, and it just takes off. It goes faster than you anticipate spinning your legs. But we took a wrong turn and kind of went up a mountain bike trail, which was actually a hiking trail. It was too steep for cycling. Right. But I had this thing in turbo mode, which was the highest level. But the wheels were spinning so fast, and I hadn't got enough weight because the angle was so high that the wheels were just spinning. We were falling off the bikes and everything. It was manic. It was very funny, but at the same time, I wouldn't like to put myself in that situation again.
Bananas.
But yeah, we Three Stooges, like the typical. We would have been the ones rescued off the mountain. The three tourists, no helmets or nothing.
I'm sure Jay Lynch, after doing a podcast and health and safety a couple of weeks ago to hiking the mountains, all the rest, that would have been pretty ironic now.
I was there in my runners and my chino shorts and a t-shirt, and off I went for the day. But it was
learned nothing.
really good. Like, and then I think at one point coming down, like we took like an hour and a half to get up, and then it was like 15 minutes to get down or 10 minutes to get down. I think we hit 60 kilometers an hour, and some of us hit 67, 70 kilometers an hour on the way down as well. So it was
70 kilometers an hour going down the hill.
Yeah. It was,
my God,
impressive, very impressive. But yeah, it's but like there was all these kind of cattle grids and stuff, and they were a bit braver than I was. I was like, nope.
Probably more used to it and all the rest. Like,
I'm gonna slow this down here a little bit. But yeah, no, really, really good. But it was again humbling to feel like I was really, really unfit, like majorly unfit to do with the heat once again. I got very used to it. I'm very not used to it now. And then the altitude made the subtlest of differences. Really, really did. But very good. Very, very
sounds
good.
like you got a little bit of a mini training camp going on over there in Germany and Austria.
Yeah, it's busy work. But in the evening time, we're taking advantage of the last light. Essentially, we're getting out. The hardest thing, again, they don't tell you about the glorious sunshines, all the midges. They absolutely savage me. So it's kind of a nice motivator because we come through grassy, foresty parts, and I just can't stop. I actually have to speed up, otherwise they'll bite me. So it's a great little motivator. But yeah, it is nice. So anyone who is, to full circle to the point, the realization that if I want to do a half Ironman next year somewhere warm, I may have to consider using saunas and probably training indoors with a hoodie on, or taking advantage of the treadmills and being that extra bit warmer.
Only that you said that there, sorry to cut you off, and this only popped into my head going back to the early part of 2020 and people building triathlons. People do go to like Marbella. I'm not sure. I'm not someone that goes to hot places, to be honest. I'm more of a city person. But they do like 1 week over and in different countries and stuff like that, and try and get a big. Obviously, you're doing a little bit different because you're there at work. They do have like a training camp where they go like cycling and running stuff, and had this like killer week of all these kind of different training, then pull back from there, I suppose, and deload for 2-3 weeks before doing an actual triathlon. I've heard a couple of people doing that. I don't know too much about it, but you're more in the circles on that one. Yeah,
there's actually a really big camp. I think it's called Plaza de Sport or Costa del Sport or whatever. They put some sporty name in it. It's in Lanzarote, but it's built around triathlon, and there is an Ironman Lanzarote. It's supposed to be one of the hardest Ironmans in this circuit, I suppose, in the European circuit. Obviously not as hard as Hawaii or Kona or the World Championships, but it's it's considered to be like it because it's a volcanic island. It's very open, very windy. The sea swim is quite difficult. But there is actually I forget the name of it, and you've kind of caught me. But yeah, in Lanzarote, there is a place, and you can book yourself in. So some people book a week holiday to drink cocktails and swim in the pool for leisure. But there are people who go out, you can book yourself into a training camp for a week, 2 weeks, 10 days, 14 nights. You can go all the way up to a month of a training camp, these like triathlon training camps. And it's amazing. They have because you're doing the cycle in groups around Lanzarote, you're in an outdoor, I think it's a 50-meter pool. So you're getting a good bit of swimming training in, and then you're obviously running around localities as well. And then your meals be kind of based around your training. And it's if you're into it, it's worth your money. Personally, if I'm going on holidays, I'm going on holidays. But I'd rather punish myself at home. But I can definitely see the benefits, particularly if you're trying to go for. I'm never going to win the race, but if you're in that stage where you're trying to push for something and you're trying to achieve a goal, yeah, it's definitely a training camp that's worth doing.
I mean, probably your first one, I can only assume based on doing the marathon, the first one was just kind of case of just do it, enjoy it, learn your experiences up from there. And then if you want to get an extra edge, maybe start thinking of those things down the line. Because when you're doing your first one, you've already put a ton of money in onto all your gear, equipment, Garmin watches, the whole lot. And the event itself is not cheap. Why throw an extra week's training, all that, when you have no idea what to expect at the race itself? I'd say just make the most of it. That'd be my assumption. I'll make the most of the first time. And then if you catch the bug, you're like, okay, actually now I've got time to beat. Now I've got an extra. I could base my training a lot more around that second time around, where it's always going to be on unknown until the day when you do just those three activities at that big a distance. I would assume anyway.
Yeah, it is really good. And I suppose as well, we'll give a shout out to Rachel Farrell this weekend. She's doing the Half Ironman World Championships out in Utah. And she's out in the Middle East. She's out in the UAE. And if anyone has been following her, it's like 40, 50 degrees Celsius out there. She's getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning to go for a cycle before the real heat kicks in. But, I'm sure being out there has had a massive advantage as opposed to being in Galway, Mayo area training, although it's hard cycling and windy cycling, the heat and all, she's going out to Utah. It is a warmer kind of climate. She's probably going to have some sort of advantage for her own personal best, not necessarily in the race because she's competing against people from all over the world. But again, wish her the best of luck, representing Ireland as usual and doing a fantastic job at it. And it's amazing to see. But I've no doubt that she took full advantage of the heat and the training that and the training element that came with it as well.
Deadly. Guys, if you're unsure who we're talking about, Rachel was a previous guest in the podcast. We'll actually show her episode up on the show notes to this episode of the podcast, because it's a very, very interesting listen to how she got into. You're probably thinking this mad, insane athlete who was an insane athlete all her life and stuff, whereas it's not really the case with Rachel, and how she got into it and her story and all the rest is really, really cool. So definitely check out that podcast if you have not done already. So, I mean, that's it in terms of your training with triathlons. This is the end of the season now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this season's pretty much, it was actually brilliant. Lock Culture was on this weekend. That was the one I was supposed to do, but obviously with work, I'm over here at the minute. But seen a lot of people getting it done, and just want to say well done to everyone who completed it. A lot of people out there completing their first triathlon, and it was a serious distance as well. So a lot of people going the full distance too. It's very impressive. Unfortunately, I could have done. I think Westport at the end of this month is probably the last one I would have set my eyes on. It's on the 20th. It could be the 26th of September or 25th, thereabouts.
Is that still going ahead? Is that not cancelled? No?
I'm not sure.
I think that one could be cancelled.
You know what?
We put a post on a week on one of them. Maybe it's not Westport, but we did a fair few that they did get cancelled. Now, I could be wrong, Westport. Maybe I am wrong on that one, but a fair few of them did get cancelled. At the moment, the Galway Bay Marathon's still going ahead. They reckon that'll still go, and the smaller ones will. Like Kilkenny and all got cancelled over the past week, and a couple of other different events that are gone. So it's still one of those years. Actually, speaking of events and stuff, because we did put a post about like different ones that are going ahead, different members talking about it. Simon's doing the 100 miler in Tennessee pretty soon.
Oh no.
So we'll have to have him back in the podcast, see how he gets on that one. Shout out to Simon if you're listening. 100 miles along Tennessee. I've no idea if you'd know more than I would do if it still gets pretty warm this time of year, September, October.
Yeah. It's like the temperatures in Tennessee was just north of Alabama. Like it is down towards the southern part of the US, so it probably won't get like the winter temperatures for them is 20 degrees during the day, but it does get colder at night. But
okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't be getting snow necessarily down in Tennessee, but depends. You know, it at this time of year it'd be moderately warm. He's probably well acclimatized to it up where he is as well, so it'd be a drastic change for us to just go and do it. But I'm sure he's been well equipped. But yeah, a 100-mile race is no joke, 160 kilometers, and it's I'm curious to get chatting to him again afterwards. I know he had his difficulties with his last one, and I'm wondering if they escalated or he managed to get a lot of those issues under control.
I'm sure we'll hear in the next couple of weeks in that one. Speaking of 100 miler, I did a 10 miler today, and I was struggling for reasons that I told people about and they kind of understand, and that is I had a fair few pints of Guinness last night. Watching the All-Ireland. I'm not a Guinness guy.
Guinness man.
So, long story short, actually, we'll make a bit of a running element to this because I'm out in the gym out in Clane, and we had people doing a 10K, never done a 10K before. And a lot of the training for it actually that we did out there, and it's basically just running and athletics kind of training, not just for runs itself, because we're a gym, there's no point for 45 minutes saying, hey, we're just going to go for a run around Clane or run around, wherever. So we had them do different, like it's kind of like what we talk about here, different kind of heart rate training. And we had it so that it was more of a group thing. So that we did it based on time. They're running a certain heart rate for 2 minutes, and then fast for one, slow for the other. So through that, you can kind of see those that are going at their steady pace of 2 minutes, what that steady pace is, and be like, I think you can actually do a 10K run. And this is only going for 16 to 20 minutes, but you can, yourself, you can see if someone's comfortably going at around a 5 kilometer pace for 2-3 minutes, and you're telling them to slow down, that they're going at a conversational pace, that they might be able to do it. So we helped them out doing that and doing a 10K. And if they are listening, shout out to you guys. It was pretty cool seeing them do that. We had a 5K loop twice, and normally I hate loops doing it twice, but if you are going to do a 10K, you're unsure about it, it's fantastic just to say, just do it once. And then at once, if you're not feeling it, just pull back and just go in and say, hey, Seán, you said I'd do a 10K and I can't do it, and hold it over me. But if the legs are feeling good and it's a good group, push on from there. And the one thing I really noticed, and I've said this a couple of times to the podcast recently, is just having that kind of group environment, a few people running along with you. It really does help you fight the mental battle of running, because I was talking to other people about this recently. It's like a 2-hour run, unless I've got a fair bit of Guinness into me, which is very rare for me, is not that bad anymore. And the time flies by. It's very quick. I just remember when I first started running and getting towards 10Ks and 13Ks, I hit a barrier in terms of this is just too long. Even sticking on my favorite album ever, I was just like, oh my God, only an hour is gone. I can't keep going. I mean, legs will be all right. I wouldn't be sucking wind too much. The time just seemed like it goes forever. But over time and doing that amount of runs, it just gets a little bit easier and easier. So we did 10K. They were delighted, and we all met up afterwards then to watch the All-Ireland. And this has happened to me a fair few times. Actually, the last time it happened was Greg Namana, where you guys all ordered Guinness, and I sat there and had me Coors Light, and I was like, don't care. I'll have this. I'm happy out. I'm after running 25, 26K. I deserve this beer. I don't care if it's a light beer. I don't care if it's a lager. It just doesn't bother me. But we're sitting around the table, and all the lads are all drinking Guinness, and they're saying how good it was and how creamy and all the rest. And then they start talking about how it's even more popular in some country in Africa. I thought it was Nigeria, because I think Nigeria is the largest exporter of Guinness. I probably should have researched this before the podcast. But then they're like, you want another pint? And I don't know if I had that small bit of Irishness in me, watching the All-Ireland, the Mayo and Tyrone, and they're all drinking Guinness. I was like, I'll have a pint of Guinness. Like, good man. I was like, oh, okay. Oh man. I thought I've had like 1 or 2 pints of Guinness, and that'd be really it. God, that's all right. And that'd be it. I had a few. Let's just say I had a few. And it went down really well. And I topped it up with more Irish alcohols and Jameson, and that went down really well. So I didn't do a whole lot this morning, but I forced myself out to do a 10-mile run, and it ruined a perfectly good hangover. Like the first 2-3K, the head was just banging, and it was just awful. But after that, then, unlike you, it was cold. There was a bit of drizzling rain, and I had a bit of country music on. And then after that, I got the whole Irishness out of my system because we were watching the American football all night. And the one person that's listening is like, hey, Seán, the heart must be across your chest watching the 49ers. It was. And I almost put the laptop through the TV because I got the red zone set up on the side. So I've talked about American stuff here for a second just to get people to realize, Seán's back to himself again. So I must have sobered up. I couldn't drink tonight now watching the games because of last night. But I looked when I was doing the 10K pacing, I never looked at my watch so much. So nervous about like going too fast, going too slow. Like now, if I was talking with people for a minute or two, I finally look down the watch and I'm like, I'm back down to a 5:25 pace. Slow it back down because we're going for a sub 1 hour. So it was around 5:50, 5:55 pace. I wanted to give it so you'd have a bit of breathing room at the end. So if it was like, for example, when we got the 5K in, that was in 29 minutes. I was able to say, look, if we went 2 minutes slower, we'd still get in just under the hour over this next 5K, and it just made me go, actually, we're doing all right. We're not trying to chase our tail or push any faster or anything like that. So even when I think we had 3K left, it's like 3K, and if you've got 19-20 minutes to this 3K, and they're like, oh, that's very very manageable.
And it also comes back to, I know you were there to kind of guide them through it, but it's something that a lot of people don't actually get at the start, is that kind of realistic goal setting, realistic goal setting in a sense that it has that positive reinforcement that, you set yourself an hour and 10 and you do it in an hour and 5 and you're like, wow, I reckon if I pushed a little bit here, there, and maybe had a little bit of energy there, maybe I could get the hour, and it is nice to be realistic with your goals at the start.
100%, and just having that.
And well done to everyone who did. It is a big step, and we always say it. People who have completed their first 10K is a lot bigger than us completing their third and fourth marathon. It's getting that first sense of what can my body do, and running for an hour is not easy. It's by no means an easy feat.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think so much of it is that mental, not knowing what you're truly capable until the day. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago, like even when it's when it's marathon day, it's like, I'm going to find a way, I'm going to do it. Whereas like 2-3 weeks, you might go out for a 25-30K and you're struggling. You're like, I don't know where this extra 12K is coming from, but your mind's set on 25-30. It's not set on race day at 42.2. But when it's set in that, like mindset, it's such a big thing with training, especially with running, especially with endurance running. It's what's David Goggins say, like when you start struggling, that's only like 40%.
40%, you're only 40% there. You've still got another 60. But he also has different
let's say it's 80% for normal people. They still have at least an extra 20% in the tank. But I actually do think it's close to 40% because people just don't give themselves enough credit and they think they're done. But when you're around with group people and you just push that little bit longer. And the other thing we're saying is the first 1 or 2K, you're always trying to catch your breath. No matter where you're at, you're always just trying to ease into it, and taking that little bit to ease in is tough.
I think that was the bizarre thing about running here was the first 1 or 2K. I was kind of like, gosh, I never have my breath or my rhythm sorted at this stage. But when I looked down and see my heart rate going through the 180s, I was like, that breath's never coming back.
that energy reserve is just going. It's not. That's when
you realize you're not at your 40, you're at your 90 very quickly. But it is good. While you were talking there, Seán, I looked it up just so people are interested. I wasn't being rude. I was listening to you, but Club La Santa Lanzarote is the place where a lot of people go, and the Ironman Lanzarote, I think, is based out there, and they do a lot of training and training camps. And the 18th of September in Utah is when Rachel is competing in the World Championships. So I believe from the sources I'm reading here, the 18th is when the World Championships. So anyone who is tracking it, keep an eye out for Rachel Farrell, who is out there.
Brilliant. That La Santa thing, is that all year round then, or is it just like
I believe so, because Lanzarote being down in the Canaries, it's pretty much guaranteed weather all year round. probably a little bit more tolerable actually in the winter for us Irish folk, because temperatures would be on average between 19 degrees during the day and dropping to about 12 degrees at night. So very summer Ireland. So it's probably a good time. And to be honest, probably a lot of people who don't like to be in Ireland for Christmas and would like to train, there's holidays there, you're not burning up a lot of holidays, and instead of having your big fat belly at the end of Christmas, you've come off a 2-week training camp. So it's it can be a game changer. All right, personally, I don't have the big fat belly.
I think I'd rather go skiing.
But yeah, it is good, and it's big well done. And those who are signed up to events that are going ahead, well done. Keep the training up, keep training hard. If you don't feel like going for a run, get out and be active for at least 30 minutes. It will help you get more energy to feel like you have the confidence for going for that run. It's one of the big tips that a lot of people have been asking me is like, oh, what do you do when you're not bored? How do you motivate yourself? Just take yourself a step back is the bit of advice. If you're supposed to go run the 10K and you're really struggling and you really can't get out the door and you're resorting to the slippers and the pajamas, just go out and go for a walk for 30 minutes. Go out and do something, and it actually generates more energy, and the body actually starts to crave more. And the next time it won't be so difficult to go for the 5K or the 10K run or whatever it is you have to do. So just get moving for 30 minutes. It would be my best advice. And then you've earned your sit down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like an alcoholic, but like a couple of weeks ago we had the wedding, and I was a bit of a rough way afterwards, and got to the Monday, and I just knew that I needed to do something to try and get back into the swing of things. And of course, I hadn't got the long run in. I'm like, I'm not going to do a 10 mile or longer run because I just can't face myself to do that. You know, feeling sorry for myself and all the rest. Is like, what's the easiest thing for me to get going? I'm lucky enough that I work in a gym that once the hour is done, I'm still in the gym. I'm like, right, I'm not going to do squats or lunges or anything like that, or use the Prouder, because it's just going to be too much energy. Like, but I need to do something kick-started. So, like, I'm doing bicep curls. But I did an upper body workout because I really enjoy doing upper body workouts. But it was just getting a nice little pump, you know, doing your different back exercise, like a different tricep on the back, and then then finish with push-ups and press and stuff like that. But in between doing like lateral raises, bicep curls, different tricep extensions, different things like that. Just getting an upper body workout. But it was just in and out 30 minutes. Not the best workout in the world, but the whole point of it was just to get the blood flowing again, rather than than doing nothing at all, or like the thoughts of doing squats and lunges and deadlifts. It just wasn't. It wasn't happening. I couldn't push myself to do it. And look, we say people before, do a 10-minute warm on something, whatever the easiest path of resistance is there. Do a 10-minute warm, and if it's not there, at least do 10 minutes. Or even after that, find an exercise that's easy. It might even mean, if you're in a big box gym, just hopping on an elliptical for 15-20 minutes. And, getting the legs and arms moving, and hey, you might feel great after that. You might get a full workout in, and then you might not. But at the same time, you're doing something which is better than doing absolutely nothing at all.
Doing absolutely nothing, and that's it. And it is. I've noticed people are finding it hard to get back into the rhythm, get back into the routine. COVID kind of opened us back up, but that kind of excuse is running out now. That you kind of just have to start. You kind of just have to bite the bullet and be disciplined. And we can be polite to people and say, look, to be fair, we haven't been on holidays, we haven't been this. There kind of comes to a point where you have to kind of take a look at yourself and go, all right, how long am I going to be on holidays for?
Yeah.
And I'm the same. I was on holidays for 6 to 8 weeks and I enjoyed it, but it came to a point now where I'm like, all right, you need to kind of get a good peak and set a few training goals and be disciplined and back to your 80-20-year-old making 80% good choices and 20 are bad, then that's okay.
Yeah, you covered yourself up there the last minute on your mic.
Oh, so sorry.
What Eric meant to say was just get on with it. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah, just get on with it.
Get on with it. And if you're doing the 80-20 rule, making 80% of the right choices during the week, then you're going to trend in the right direction. So
yes,
just get on that. You don't look for 100% perfection, because unless you're being paid to do it, you're still unlikely to get it. So everyone has a life to live, but do make the right decisions the majority of the time. I think is the right thing to do, be it with your nutrition or your training. Be a little bit disciplined and let's set our eyes towards Christmas and earn that Christmas dinner. I don't like talking about it this early, but people need that goal, and that's a good 12-week goal to start aiming towards.
Well, I love talking about it. I'm stopped thinking about Christmas since you actually said less Santa. I'm like, Santa. We're there of Christmas time. We're my favourite time of year of football and all on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is the level we're getting to here. On that, Bob, actually, I heard a dad joke. You just pointed at that. Trying to find the right way to build this up. Albert Einstein, right?
Yeah.
Absolute genius. Probably a great guy. But his brother Frank was an absolute monster.
Oh, stop. Get out of here. Get out of here. That's all from me and Seán. I'm going to finish it out while he's
no, we'll wrap it up. But we will say, just before we wrap it up, congrats to the 3 people who won the challenge with Sinead at Designs by SD. And thanks for everyone who did tag. We got a fair few followers as well on her page and ours as well. So I think there's other people looking at the moment in terms of getting them signed up and starting there. Whoever won the 6-week challenge and all the rest, or the yoga and everything else that goes with it. Fair play to them. And with that said, I think we'll wrap up this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Unless you have anything else to add, Eric?
No, I think I've done enough talking.
On that note, Eric, enjoy the rest of Germany and Austria, and I'm just going to enjoy the rest of football and go to bed. Guys, enjoy your week. Get right back at it. Start off light, build yourself up through it, and that's it for myself and Eric. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Bye.